a desperate alien widow on the run. The stars burned cold in the void, distant and uncaring, as Veyra's ship limped through the debris field of what had once been her homeworld. The Sythari Dominion had left nothing but ashes in their wake. Her people slaughtered, her husband executed before her eyes, and now the last remnants of her kind were being hunted like vermin. She clutched her child, Kael, closer to her chest, his tiny fingers gripping her armored tunic. His bioluminescent markings flickered weakly, a sign of exhaustion, of fear. The Sythari had declared their species genetic aberrations, their unique ability to manipulate bioelectric fields too dangerous to leave unchecked. But Veyra knew the truth. It wasn't about danger. It was about control. And she was the last one left who could pass the knowledge of their kind to the next generation. The hunt begins. Her stolen vessel, a junk hauler retrofitted with scavenged stealth tech, shuddered as an alert blared across the console. A Dominion hunter ship had locked onto her trail. The Sythari didn't just kill, they erased. Their warships were equipped with neural scrambling pulses designed to leave victims paralyzed, fully conscious as they were dissected for study. Veyra's hands trembled as she rerouted power to the engines, her translucent, vein-like neural tendrils flaring with stress. She had seen what happened to those captured. The Dominion's cybernetic inquisitors would peel open a mind like circuitry, extracting every memory, every secret before discarding the husk. "Mother, are they coming?" Kael's voice was small, his large silver-rimmed eyes reflecting the emergency lights. She forced a steady tone. "We will be safe. I promise." But the ship's sensors told a different story. The hunter was closing in, its gravitic distortion drive warping space to cut off her escape vectors. She had one desperate gambit left, a blind jump into uncharted space where the Dominion's navigation beacons wouldn't reach. A crash landing in hell. The jump was unstable. The ship's warp coils ruptured, sending them spiraling into the atmosphere of a backwater fringe world, human territory. Smoke filled the cockpit as they crashed into a sprawling neon-lit megacity, skidding through streets lined with flickering holograms and rusted cybernetic vendors. The impact knocked Veyra unconscious for precious seconds, and when she awoke, the first thing she heard was the clanking of armored boots. Dominion tracker drones, small and spider-like, scuttled through the wreckage, their red photoreceptors scanning for life signs. "Whoa, not here. Not yet." She grabbed Kael and bolted into the labyrinth of alleyways, her body aching from the crash. The humans in this district were outcasts, mercenaries, and criminals, none who would risk their lives for a stranger. And yet, as she turned a corner, she collided with a towering figure. The human who stood in the way. He was massive, clad in a battered exosuit lined with old military insignia. A cybernetic eye glowed faintly in the shadows, scanning her with cold efficiency. Behind him, two more humans, one with a wrist-mounted plasma cutter, the other with a hacked Dominion pulse rifle, stepped forward. "You're not from around here," the man growled. His voice was rough, but there was something in it. Not pity, but recognition. Before she could speak, a tracker drone lunged from the darkness, its needle-like appendages aiming for Kael. Veyra reacted on instinct, her bioelectric field flaring in a desperate pulse of defensive energy, but the human was faster. His armored fist smashed into the drone, crushing it mid-leap. Sparks flew as he ripped its core out and tossed it aside. "You've got Dominion on your tail," he stated, as if it were just another job. "You got a plan." Veyra hesitated. She had spent cycles running, trusting no one. But now, with her child trembling in her arms and death closing in, she had no choice. "I need to reach the free colonies," she said. "If I don't, my son dies." My people die with him. The human exchanged glances with his crew. Then, with a grunt, he slung his rifle over his shoulder. Then you'd better keep up. We're getting you off this rock. The weight of trust. As they moved through the underbelly of the city, Veyra studied the human, Captain Elias Rook, as his companions called him. A disgraced former coalition soldier, now a smuggler. He had no reason to help her. And yet, when a Dominion shock trooper patrol cornered them in a dead-end alley, Rook didn't hesitate. He activated his exosuit's kinetic shield, taking the brunt of the plasma fire as he tossed her a stolen pulse pistol. "Ever used one of these?" he shouted over the gunfire. "No," she admitted. He grinned, a fierce, reckless thing. "Time to learn." And as she fired her first shot, as Kael clung to her leg, as Rook and his crew fought like demons against an entire Dominion kill team, Veyra realized something. She wasn't alone anymore. And that changed everything. Why this works for HFY/Sci-Fi. High-stakes survival. The Widow isn't just running. She's carrying the last hope of her species. Gritty futuristic setting. Neon slums, cybernetic enhancements, and Dominion hunter tech create a vivid sci-fi atmosphere. Human heroism. The human isn't a flawless savior. He's a disgraced soldier turned smuggler, making his choice to help even more impactful. Emotional core. A mother's desperation, a child's innocence, and a hardened man rediscovering his humanity. Key point 2. A human steps into the fire. The air in the neon-drenched undercity reeked of ozone and burnt wiring. The distant hum of anti-grav transports drowned out by the pulse rifle fire tearing through the alleyway. Veyra pressed herself against the corroded metal wall, her son Kael trembling against her chest. The Dominion shock troopers were methodical, fanning out in a kill pattern, their blackened armor absorbing the flickering streetlight as they advanced. She had seen this before. The way they moved, the way they never left survivors. Then a shadow moved. The man who didn't run. Captain Elias Rook wasn't supposed to be here. This sector was a graveyard for the desperate, a place where smugglers and deserters like him came to disappear. He'd been halfway through a bottle of synth whiskey, the cheap kind that left a metallic aftertaste, when the crash shook the district. Then the tracker drones came. Then the gunfire. His first instinct. Look away. But then he saw her. The alien woman clutching a child, her eyes wide with a kind of fear that wasn't just about survival. It was the fear of someone who had lost everything and still had one thing left to lose. And the kid. Kael's bioluminescent markings pulsed erratically, a sign of distress in his species. Rook had seen that glow before, on a battlefield light years away, where another alien child had stared up at him from the rubble. That one he couldn't save. Damn it! He crushed the whiskey bottle in his grip, the glass biting into his cybernetic palm. No choice but to fight. Rook's crew, Jax, the wiry hacker with a plasma torch where his left hand should be, and Dara, the ex-coalition medic who'd followed him into exile, exchanged glances. They knew that look. "We are not getting involved," Jax hissed. "We already are," Rook said, slamming his combat exosuit's ignition. The servos whined as the armor sealed around him, the kinetic shield emitter flaring to life on his forearm. Dara sighed, racking the charge on her stolen Dominion rifle. "You still owe me 20 creds from the last time you did something stupid. Put it on my tab." Then he stepped into the open. First shot, first blood. The lead shock trooper never saw him coming. Rook's wrist-mounted micromissile detonated at the trooper's feet, sending him crashing into a stack of cargo crates. The others spun, their rifles humming with charge, but Rook was already moving. His exosuit's hydraulic fists caved in the chest plate of the second trooper before the man could scream. The third got off a shot, a searing bolt of plasma that grazed Rook's shoulder, cooking the armor plating. He barely flinched. "Veyra, move!" She reacted instantly, dragging Kael behind a rusted generator as Jax's hack security turret spun up, spraying the alley with incendiary rounds. The Dominion troops scattered, but Dara was already flanking, her rifle picking them off one by one. The moment that changed everything. One trooper broke through. Veyra saw him too late. His weapon raised, point-blank at Kael's head. She screamed, her bioelectric field surging in a last-ditch effort to shield her son. And then Rook was there. He tackled the trooper into a wall, his exosuit's strength shattering the man's spine on impact. But not before the trooper's monomolecular combat blade found its mark, slashing deep across Rook's ribs. Blood, thick and dark, splattered the pavement. Veyra stared. No one had ever taken a blade for her before. Rook just grimaced, yanking the knife free and tossing it aside. "You okay?" he grunted like it was nothing. Kael reached out, his small fingers brushing the wound. A faint golden glow emanated from his touch, a reflexive healing pulse, weak but instinctive. Rook's eyes widened. That's new. Why he did it. Later, when they dragged themselves into a clandestine safe house, Dara patching Rook up with illegal nanogel, Veyra finally asked the question burning in her mind. "Why did you help us?" Rook was silent for a long moment, watching Kael sleep curled in a makeshift nest of scavenged blankets. "Couple years back," he said finally, "my unit was sent to pacify a colony. Found a kid in the wreckage. Looked at me the same way yours did." He tapped his cybernetic eye. "Command said leave it. I didn't. Got me discharged." He didn't say what happened to the kid. He didn't need to. Veyra understood. The fire they walked into. Outside, the Dominion warship circling the planet's orbit began its descent. Rook checked his rifle. "They'll burn the whole district to find you." "Then we run," Veyra said. "No." Rook's voice was iron. "We fight." And just like that, a widow with nothing left, and a man who'd lost everything, became the galaxy's most unlikely hope. HumanityFYeah elements amplified. Human resilience. Rook isn't a hero. He's a broken man who chooses decency when it costs him everything. For the child trope, the immediate, instinctive protection of Kael elevates the emotional stakes. Sci-fi grit. Cybernetics, hacked weapons, and nanotech blend futuristic detail with raw, visceral combat. Moral contrast. The Dominion's ruthless efficiency versus humanity's flawed but unwavering compassion. The Void's mercy. Rook's battered but heavily modified gunship shuddered as another Dominion plasma torpedo skimmed its hull. The impact sent sparks erupting from the ceiling panels, bathing the cockpit in erratic flashes of red light. "They've got a gravitic lock on us," Jax yelled from the co-pilot's seat, his cybernetic fingers flying across the holodisplay. "If we don't break it in the next 30 seconds, we're sitting ducks." Rook didn't respond. His hands were locked on the controls, veins standing out on his forearms as he forced the ship into a near-suicidal spiral through the debris field of a shattered orbital station. Behind them, the Dominion interceptor, Dusk Razor, loomed like a blade in the dark, its adaptive camouflage flickering as it adjusted to match the wreckage around them. Veyra clutched Kael tighter in the rear compartment, her bioluminescent markings flaring with every explosion. "Mother, will we die?" Kael whispered. She opened her mouth to lie. Then the ship lurched violently as Rook executed a slingshot maneuver around a derelict warship's carcass, using its dead gravity well to whip them into a new trajectory. "Not today," Rook growled over the comms. "Dara, activate the surprise. The hunters and the hunted." The Dominion didn't just want them dead. They wanted them erased. Hunter-killer drones. Swarms of self-replicating nanite probes that could infiltrate a ship's systems and disassemble living tissue at a molecular level. Phase shift troopers. Elite soldiers equipped with personal teleportation packs, appearing and disappearing in bursts of distorted light. The Dusk Razor's AI tactician. A ruthless quantum cognitive system that adapted to their strategies in real time, predicting their moves before they made them. And worst of all, they were learning. Every escape route Rook took, every trick he pulled, the Dominion recorded, analyzed, and countered. Improvised warfare. Rook's crew fought back with sheer, unrelenting ingenuity. Jax's ghost code. A self-mutating virus injected into the Dominion's tracking systems, causing their scanners to hallucinate phantom ships across half the sector. Dara's bioscrambler, a repurposed medical nanite injector rigged to overload phase shift troopers' teleportation cells, fusing their atoms mid-jump. Veyra's hidden power. Under extreme stress, her bioelectric field disrupted nearby Dominion tech, frying drones and scrambling targeting systems in a pulse of golden energy. But the Dusk Razor kept coming. The trap in the nebula. Their only chance was the Sythari Nebula, a storm of ionized plasma and electromagnetic chaos that even Dominion sensors couldn't penetrate. But getting there meant surviving a gauntlet of automated defense platforms, remnants of an ancient war, still programmed to fire on anything that moved. "This is insane," Dara muttered, watching the first platform's targeting lasers flicker to life. "Yeah," Rook agreed, slamming the throttle forward. "Hold on to something." What followed was a 5-minute ballet of destruction. Rook skimmed the void's mercy along the edge of a platform's firing arc, tricking it into shooting at the pursuing Dusk Razor. Jax hacked a dormant missile battery, turning it against the Dominion ship in a blaze of sudden, unrelenting fire. Veyra, in a moment of desperate instinct, channeled her bioelectric energy into the ship's shields, reinforcing them just as a plasma volley would have torn them apart. And then the nebula swallowed them whole. Silence in the storm. Inside the nebula, sensors were useless. Communications were dead. The only sound was the creaking of the ship's hull under the strain of the ion storms. Rook leaned back in his chair, breathing hard. "We lost them." But Veyra saw the way his hand still trembled on the controls. "For now," she said softly. Kael, exhausted, had fallen asleep against her. His tiny fingers still clutching the scorched plasteel charm Rook had given him, a human lucky piece from some forgotten war. Outside, the nebula swirled, beautiful and deadly. And somewhere in the dark, the Dominion was still coming. Why this works for HFY/Sci-Fi. Relentless pacing. The chase never lets up, with each encounter raising the stakes. Creative problem solving. The crew's improvised, jury-rigged tactics showcase human ingenuity. Character moments. Veyra's growing power, Kael's innocence, and Rook's unshakable defiance all shine. Tech-infused action. Nanite swarms, phase-shifting troopers, and nebula storms keep the sci-fi visceral. Next step. The Dominion's countermove. How they adapt to the crew's tricks. Kael's abilities evolving under pressure. The final run to the free colonies. And what waits for them there. The first time Veyra heard the word human spoken with reverence, it came from the lips of a dying Krovan freedom fighter on the prison moon of Zeta 7. "They don't break," the Krovan had whispered, blood bubbling between his teeth. "No matter what the Dominion does. Humans refuse to break." At the time, she hadn't understood. Now, as she watched Captain Elias Rook jury-rig a stolen Dominion dropship's engine with nothing but a plasma wrench and sheer spite, she was beginning to. The stories they never told. The free colonies, a scattered network of rebel-held systems, were a myth to most of the galaxy. The Dominion suppressed all knowledge of them, but whispers persisted in the dark corners of spaceports. Asterisk. You ever heard of the Battle of Cerberan V? Rook asked abruptly, elbow deep in the ship's wiring. Veyra shook her head. 3 human cruisers held off a Dominion fleet for 18 hours so civilians could evacuate. He spat to the side, wiping grease on his pants. Not one of those ships had a functioning engine by the end. Crew fought with sidearms when the boarders came. Dominion still lost. Kael, curled in the co-pilot's seat, perked up. How? Rook's grin was all teeth. They vented the atmosphere and fought in vac suits. Crazy bastards. A history written in blood and defiance. As they traveled, Veyra began piecing together the truth. The Iron Siege of New Constantinople, where a single human AI warmind sacrificed itself to hack and disable an entire Dominion battle group, singing ancient Terran war songs as its systems burned out. The ghost fleet of Proxima, a derelict human armada, rigged with quantum mines, that annihilated a pursuing Dominion force when triggered by a dead man's switch. The last broadcast of Captain Wu, a transmission that still played on loop in some sectors, where a human officer detonated her ship's singularity core mid-sentence rather than surrender. You celebrate these defeats? Veyra asked, bewildered. Rook laughed. They weren't defeats. Every one of those bought time. Saved lives. That's the point. The weight of a reputation. When they landed on Outpost Sigma 9 to resupply, Veyra saw it firsthand. The cybernetic bartender refused payment when he recognized Rook's coalition tattoos. The Ursid mercenary at the docks pressed a cloaking module into her hands with a grunted, "For the child." Even the Dominion defector in the corner raised a glass in silent respect. "Why do they help us?" she whispered. Rook's expression darkened. "Because the Dominion thinks mercy is weakness. We know it's the only damn thing worth fighting for." The revelation that changes everything. Then came the data core. Jax, hacking a Dominion surveillance satellite, uncovered encrypted files about Veyra's people. Not just executions, experiments. The Dominion had been trying to weaponize her species' bioelectric abilities. And the only successful test subject, a half-human hybrid. Rook went very still. That's why they want Kael. Veyra felt the galaxy tilt beneath her. Her child wasn't just the last of their kind. He was the key to a weapon that could break the Dominion's grip forever. The legacy they choose. That night, Kael's markings glowed brighter than ever as he unconsciously repaired a damaged power cell just by touching it. Rook watched, something unreadable in his gaze. "You know what they call humans where I'm from," Veyra said softly. "The stubborn stars. Because no matter how far the darkness spreads, some of us keep burning," Rook finished. And in that moment, a widow without a home and a soldier without a cause found something worth carrying the fire for. Why this works for HFY. Mythic scale. The battle stories aren't just lore. They define how the galaxy sees humanity. Emotional payoff. Veyra's dawning realization that her child represents hope reframes the entire journey. Cultural contrast. The Dominion's cold efficiency versus humanity's flawed, furious compassion. Seeds for finale. The hybrid weapon angle sets up Kael's role in the endgame. Next step. Do you want to flesh out Rook's personal connection to these legends, e.g., was he at Cerberan V? Jump to key point 5, the final stand. And its HFY payoff? Explore Kael's abilities in more sci-fi detail. The Void's mercy erupted from the nebula in a storm of ionized plasma, its hull scorched and bleeding atmosphere from a dozen breaches. Behind them, the Dusk Razor followed, battered but unrelenting, its adaptive armor already repairing the damage from the nebula's fury. "We're not gonna outrun them this time," Rook said, his voice eerily calm. Veyra knew what that tone meant. She had heard it before. In the voice of her husband, the night the Dominion came for their world. No more running. The free colonies were so close. Single jump away. But the Dusk Razor had them locked in a gravitic tractor beam, dragging them back like a predator hauling in wounded prey. Rook turned to his crew. "Jax, the Mercy still got that old Coalition war code in its systems." Jax's eyes widened. "You can't be serious." "Do it." A flicker of understanding passed between them. Dara silently handed Veyra a breach sealant pack and a pulse pistol. "For when it gets close," she said. Kael, sensing the shift in the air, clutched Rook's pant leg. "You're leaving." Rook crouched, pressing the dog tags from his neck into the boy's hands. "Nah, kid. I'm just gonna make sure nobody follows you." The last gambit. What happened next was not a retreat. It was a detonation. Step 1. Jax initiated Code Fenrir, a dead man's protocol buried in the Void's mercy systems. The ship's engines reversed polarity, overloading the Dominion tractor beam and luring the Dusk Razor into point-blank range. Step 2. Dara rigged the ship's reactor to critical, while Rook armored up in his last remaining piece of functional gear, a Coalition-era shock trooper exoframe, its hydraulics whining in protest. Step 3. Veyra and Kael transferred to the escape pod, its trajectory already locked onto the Free Colony's coordinates. "You don't have to do this," Veyra said, her voice raw. Rook just grinned. "Yeah, I do." Then he manually detached the pod and turned toward the Dusk Razor. One man against a warship. The Dusk Razor realized the trap too late. Rook's exoframe latched onto the warship's hull, its magnetic clamps burning out as he forced his way toward the shield generator. Inside, the Void's Mercy's reactor hit critical, unleashing a plasma storm that crippled the Dusk Razor's engines. The Dominion AI scrambled to adapt, but Rook had one last trick. A stolen Dominion Neuralink spike, jammed into his own cybernetic port. "Let's see how you like getting hacked," he snarled, flooding the Dusk Razor systems with a cascade of corrupted data. For 3 glorious minutes, the warship's weapons turned on itself. The last transmission. As the escape pod hurtled toward safety, Veyra's console picked up one final broadcast. Rook's face, bloodied but grinning, filled the screen. Behind him, the Dusk Razor's bridge burned. "Tell the kid." Static swallowed the next words. Then, clear as starlight, "Humans always punch up." The transmission ended. The Dusk Razor tore itself apart in a silent explosion. The aftermath. When Veyra and Kael finally reached the Free Colonies, they were not met with pity. They were met with salutes. Because Rook's last act hadn't just saved them, it had sent a message. A message etched in warship wreckage and Dominion blood. Humanity still fights. And now so would they. HumanityFYeah elements at their peak. Sacrifice with teeth. Rook's death isn't just noble. It's a tactical masterstroke that turns the enemy's strength against them. Legacy of Defiance. His last words become a rallying cry, echoing humanity's unbroken spirit. Full circle. Veyra and Kael's arrival at the Free Colonies isn't an end. It's the beginning of their fight. Visceral tech. Neural spikes, suicidal hacks, and exploding warships keep the sci-fi brutally immersive. Final step. Epilogue scene. Veyra and Kael's new role in the war. Rook's memorial. how the free colonies honor his sacrifice. The Dominion's response. Seeds for a sequel.